Good morning. I would like to call to order the Human Services Committee for Pierce County. Today is March 21st, 2023. The time is 9:32. If the clerk could please call the roll.
Yes, good morning. Councilmember Herrera.
Here.
Councilmember Cruver. Here. Councilmember Mello.
Here.
Councilmember Campbell.
Excused but expected.
Councilmember Hitchin.
Here.
There are 4 members present.
And with 4 members, we have a quorum. The agenda has been put before us. We have 2 items. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda as presented? Seeing none, we'll move forward and jump right into why we're here this morning. So I'm going to kick this over to Ms. Merrick to introduce. Oh, I don't know which one you have. Are you staff 1 or staff 2? There we go. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Lee Beth Merrick, committee staff. Item number 4 is an update on the Commission on Immigrant and Refugee Affairs. For some background, in September of 2021, the council established a 4-year commission on refugee and immigrant affairs. In July 2022, the council confirmed the appointments of 9 commission members, and the commission is required to provide council with annual reports by April of each year. Joining us today to provide an update on the commission's work is Alice Fung, who is the commission chair, and George Consuelo, who is the vice chair of the commission. We also have Stephanie Love from the Human Services Department available for questions. So with that, I'll hand it over to Alice and George.
Thank you for joining us. If you come to the podium, we'll kick off the slideshow and go right.
All right.
You're on.
So thank you so much, Madam Chair, for the invitation for us to come and present an update for our commission. I have to say, we really love our team and all the things that we've accomplished in the past 6 months. So we're excited to share with you what we've done. And as you know, our Pierce County vision is a place people are proud to call home. And we hope that our commission will be able to provide suggestions from our community of immigrants and refugees on how to make that even better and for us to thrive. So we can go ahead and do the next slide. So here is actually a picture of George and I. This is our first outreach out into the community. It was Asian Pacific Cultural Center's annual Lunar New Year Festival, and we were able to have a table, and we actually passed out candy. Oops. I forgot my cross. So we passed out our lucky candy. It's something that I grew up just loving, and I basically eat the whole bag. And I thought that we would share that at our table, and so we did that, and we also shared about our commission and our meeting and
passed out our half sheets.
Yep.
We had during that we passed out lots of candy. It was kind of like our catch-22 of if you get a piece of candy, you get a piece of our literature. And it was great seeing the community kind of be surprised by this commission and just seeing that there is a genuine interest from our community members in needing support and visibility within Pierce County.
Yes, they really like our mission statement, which we'll share with you in a little bit. Just an introduction, I am a native Tacoman, born and raised at Tacoma General, and so I'm very happy to be back in Pierce County and serving in this capacity as chair.
And thank you for having us, council members. My name is George Consuelo. I am the vice chair of our Commission for Refugee and Immigrant Affairs. As Alice has mentioned, it's been great working with our group of currently 8 members, working on that 9th. But we've really had a lot of steam with our work in creating this foundation for our commission, and it's just been a pleasure to be able to work with a very diverse group of people, all having the same goal of making Pierce County more inclusive for everyone who calls Pierce County home. And so the next slide is the rest of our commission members. As I said previously, we have a total of 9 commission positions, with our District 5 vacant at the moment. But just recently this week, Vice Chair Campbell has given us 3 recommendations for our new vacancy, and we will be going and creating a subcommittee to do that review process, and hopefully pick out a candidate, well, pick out a member to represent District 5. So in District 1, we have Gloria Rodriguez. In District 2, we have Diane Bullen. District 3, we have Erasmo Ruiz. District 4, we have Jennifer Dotson. District 5 is vacant. District 6 is our wonderful Alice Fong. District 7 is Lara Cooper. I am the youth member, George. And then our at-large member is Thierry Rubenecca. Next slide, please. And then for our member facts, we have 4 commission members who are immigrants, 4 commission members who are family members of immigrants, and all of our commission members have years of experience working with immigrants and refugees. And I think another level of importance to that is having diverse representation, not only in the ethnic backgrounds that we have here in our group, representing refugee and immigrant communities, but it also accounts for generational differences in this instance of being first generation, second generation, or even third generation immigrants. And we are better able to understand the collective by understanding the different struggles and the different barriers that each generation will have, and the different understandings and viewpoints that they hold, that individuals and families hold. And then next slide, please.
And so this is one of the things that we're very proud of. And so when we came together in September, we were thinking about, how do we want to operate? How do we want to create norms and values so that we can work together? Because we have a charge, a task to help serve our community better. And so with that, we talked about creating a mission statement and finding our core values. And in that process, it also acts as a way to allow us to get to know each other more deeply. And so we learned about our own, we shared about our own personal values. We utilize something called gracious space and how we, interact with each other. And we, through that, we really created a culture of making decisions together. So we don't make decisions on like a subcommittee or just us as chairs and vice chair. We make decisions together. It takes a little longer, and our product, we believe, is stronger. And so we really thank the staff who are willing to support us in our process. And in that, in the coming weeks, we actually met in person for the first time in our meeting, and we did our activity, which Diane, Commissioner Diane came and helped us facilitate that. And we worked together, stood around the whiteboard, and we came up with a mission statement. We are community advocates with lived experiences, collaborating with Pierce County leadership, refugees, and immigrants to create a thriving and inclusive society. And it's really going, as we were having these conversations, it's really going beyond just our immigrant, refugee, and immediate family, but it's all of Pierce County. And so that's really the mission of what we're looking at to do. And our core values for the group are interconnectedness, equity, compassion, and open-mindedness. And so we really want to have that welcoming culture and allow for us to, because as my dad always says, with one key, there's like no sounds, but when you have 2 or more keys, there's like all kinds of sounds and all kinds of perspectives. And so we really want to be able to hold a culture of where we welcome all these diverse perspectives so that we can co-create suggestions to bring to you, to the council members, an advisement of what our community needs are. And so with that foundational work, I kind of shared a little bit about that already. And, we're dedicated, we utilize a values-based approach. And I kind of mentioned already that we make decisions together. And through that, we adopted our work plan, which we will talk to you a little bit about later. And then again, we talk about our first activity, which is a tabling at APACC, and really touched almost 500 people came to our table because that was the amount of candy that we passed out. So luckily we brought enough and still had a couple extra bags left. And so then, moving forward, we are still working on creating our bylaws for our group. We already had a small group come together and really flesh out some pieces that we want to have and shared with the commissioners. And then we're going to continue to flesh that out in the coming month or so. We also touched on our vision statement. We haven't finalized that yet, but we are able to have, some very strong foundations based on our early work of our norms, values, and, our mission statement that we created. We really believe that this process is important to do so that it will allow us to really have clear direction and our North Star to develop the suggestions and advisory for the council members. And then we also, as a group, decided that we wanted to have leadership be experienced by more folks than this, the usual 1 year. We have the chair, vice chair, and so we have a 6-month rotation. And so I was very fortunate and humbled that the team selected me, and then, of course, amazing Vice Chair here, George, to lead the first round. And then we're asking our next teammates, fellow commissioners, to select who would be interested in being chair and then vice chair. And then we circulate that. And then from that, our work plan has priority 1, 2, and 3, and we've really accomplished priority 1, and then we're working on 2 and 3. And so, as we shared, we had our first meeting where we established our norms and protocols. We elected our chair and vice chair. We have a meeting calendar. We have our mission statement and our commission values. We created our work plan for 2023 to 2024. And we're really at the ends of finalizing our bylaws. And that's in our priority 1. And so in our next slide,
we have our priority 2. And so we have 4 topics under priority 2. So for the first one, planning and attending outreach events in the community. As we have mentioned, our APCC outreach event went really well. There was an interest and a need by the community for our support and efforts to be brought towards the refugee and immigrant communities. And one of our bigger goals this year is to have visibility and acknowledgement within our community, and expanding that. We want to let others know that the creation of this commission and the duty we have of serving and collaborating with refugees and immigrants in Pierce County. Not only that, this will strengthen the bond between residents and elected leaders, as there is leadership on the ground that can often be difficult to have a sense of belonging and engagement when you're from an outside perspective. So connecting with them one-to-one on how we know best to do that, and then have them kind of enveloped in the process. And then for number 2, ensure that the CRIA meetings are accessible to community members. I think something that we're super proud of in our commission is that we are one of the only ones to provide language access by allowing a request for translation to accommodate for that meeting within, I believe it's like a span of 1 week prior. And this is really great because language barriers have and continue to be a big issue and a big obstacle within all of our various communities, which is why I'm grateful for Pierce County to continue implementing solutions and bringing everyone to the table. I know in the past we've been translating the top 5 languages here in Pierce County, so it's great that we have somewhere to start and then continue growing on that. We also have our meetings in Zoom, which helps geographical struggles as well, and just opens up the availability for more people to partake in our meeting. And then for number 3, explore creating social media pages for outreach and discussions. Social media has always been a useful tool to engage residents and develop strengthen bonds via communication. Keeping our website updated on the Pierce County website is awesome, but especially with like newer generations or with a lot of younger people that I know, the likelihood of them checking out a county website is kind of low. So expanding that and bringing all of our information that we have there will be able to increase our reach and visibility to more platforms, and it would really serve us well, especially in a post-COVID world where social media has been booming quite a lot. It's great to be able to have that extensive outreach there. And with social media, I feel like there's also kind of age, what would I say? Like age correlations with the social media. So like with Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So it's best to cater to those different ages as well. And then for number 4, invite guest speakers from agencies that are currently serving refugees and immigrants. One of the things that I appreciate most about this work is the variety of stories, views, and experiences that each of our commissioner brings to our commission. We all bring a unique understanding to the conversation that helps paint a better picture of the reality we live in. And so bringing in more speakers from different agencies will help shape our basic collective understanding as a commission, and then it will also serve as an opportunity for continued learning and growth. There is never a point where you stop learning, so it's always great to be getting new perspectives and visions. Like I said, our community is ever-changing as well, and we need to know what's going on within it and how best to take action. And then next slide, please. And then priority 3, we have advise county leadership on issues pertaining to the refugees and immigrant communities. Help Pierce County leadership learn more about existing programs that provide services and how to improve connection and support for refugees and immigrants. And then B, advise county leadership on ways to engage service providers, subject matter experts, and community advocates to create a referral and support process for new arrival refugees and immigrants. And then for topic 1, invite council members to attend regular commission meetings. I've had the pleasure of having Madam Chair Hitchen join in on our B25 commission meetings, and I think from that past experience, it's been a great opportunity not only for Pierce County council members, but also for commission members to see that bond within our service really be seen and felt, and it bolsters that relationship in a positive way. And even if it's a check-in for 10 to 15 minutes at the end of a regular meeting, it allows for consistent updates as to the work we are doing, and it helps the commission members see that our work is being taken into consideration and valued, and it keeps council members accessible at any given point. And then for number 2, send advisory letters regarding local efforts and initiatives. So our advisory letters to council would include our understandings and suggestions on a particular issue or solution pertaining to refugees and immigrants, either of support or possible dissent with explanation. And then 3, investigate opportunities to present to the council about current refugee and immigrant issues in community service agencies. So apart from the yearly report that is today, it's beneficial to provide an update to any large-scale projects that we have going on and provide reports or presentations on subjects regarding refugees and immigrants that would help council connect with what's happening on the ground. And then for number 4, ask community agencies that are engaged in the work how county leadership can support them and new arrival refugees and immigrants. And we are actually undergoing conversations with Human Services, who is actually here today, to work on a project to help with incoming arrivals. And then next slide, I think that's the end. Oh, yeah. So you can go.
Oh, yep. And so invitation, here is our time that we have our meeting. So if you are available, we invite you and also the other council members to join us. Next meeting, we're going to be working on our vision statement, and we'll also have food. And so, yes. One of our council members was like, are you going to bring the same food that you brought at the mission statement meeting? And I said yes, and so she's like, yes. So please join us if you can. We'll be at the Human Services Building meeting in person. And one of the things that I wanted to touch base is that we have our experience as immigrants and refugees here in Pierce County, and then in our work plan, as is stated in our ordinance, there are topic areas that we want to focus in. And so the other thing that our group is working on is selecting, prioritizing some topic areas and engaging with community to know what these topic areas are. And so for me personally, I reached out to the Asian Pacific Islander community and also other people that I'm engaged with on wearing my other hats. And I heard a lot of community safety and education and civic engagement as some of the priorities that we have. And that's not what we've selected yet, but I just wanted to share from what we've been engaging and working on to finalize, some of those working pieces so that, we would be able to hear from the whole community and then as part of our work plan that we have. Yeah. And so-
Well, thank you very much for that overview and the work that you've done. It seems like you've gone into this with very thoughtful and intentional community building to develop a group that will kind of be able to function and work long-term, and some pretty challenging conversations could come up. So I appreciate the thoughtfulness it sounds like you've been, and the staff supporting that, both with Stephanie Love and then Human Services providing both the space, time, guidance, and tech to make this all happen. So thank you. I'm going to turn to my colleagues to see if they have any questions or comments. We'll start with Councilmember or Committee Member Mello.
Thank you, Chair Hitchin. I add my gratitude that the chair shared. This is a lot of hard work, especially to be as thoughtful and intentional as you are being. It's going to pay a lot of dividends for the perspectives you're trying to bring. So that's very clear. Thank you for this. Very much looking forward, especially to work plan item priority 3 to get the invitations, the opportunities for service improvement, policy improvement. So very much, I know you are looking forward to that too, but and the setup is important. But very much looking forward to that. And grateful also, as the chair indicated, just wanted to reiterate, the Human Services staff works so hard on so many different issues. And there's a lot of our boards and commissions that are staffed by the Human Services Committee. And that takes a lot of work to properly support volunteers, right? Community volunteers. So we are, as the chair said, we are completely open to any and all. I ask that you have no political filter on your recommendations. Your job is to bring your lived experience and your best thinking and your knowledge, and give us your best thinking. I really want you to have the license to do that. Amongst other ideas you might bring to staff, the executive branch, the legislative branch, I do want to ask you to put something on your work plan when you're able to get to it, hopefully sooner rather than later. The council took up a proposal to undo a longstanding issue called E-Verify. This is a major barrier for immigrants and refugees to work in our community. The council has learned that through its engagement with immigrants and refugees and advocacy organizations that support them. That proposal, unfortunately, while passed by the council, was vetoed by the executive. And we've learned of the harm that that provides to people who want to work lawfully in our community. It's been shared that more folks need more education and knowledge about this. I think you're the perfect commission to further help study that and make document the harm, document a recommendation and the why behind it, so we can continue to make the best informed decisions. I heard a request for more information, more knowledge about it to get more folks comfortable with what the council passed. So I hear that as a sincere request, and so I want to honor that sincere request and ask you to help us work on that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilmember Mello.
Thank you.
Thank you for that request. I was worried you were going to say the one that I have, so thankfully you didn't, or maybe not thankfully. We'll see. Committee Member Herrera.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for all the work you're doing. This is really important work. I mean, there's been immigrants coming into this community for forever, and they didn't have committees like this for them. So this is great work. But I would ask that, in general, a lot of these immigrants come from places that they don't trust government. They don't trust anything that has anything to do with government. And they've kind of created their own communities where they shore each other up. And how do you break through those walls to get into those different communities? Because we have so many different ones. Now we have the Ukrainian community that's kind of new, and they're coming from something fresh that happened in the 70s. We had Vietnamese and Cambodians and things like that, and they're tight-knit groups. So can you talk a little bit about how we break those walls down to get into those communities, to really help them, to really know what they need?
You want me to start?
Yeah, you can start, Alice.
Thank you, Councilmember Herrera, for your question. I think that in life, it's really about relationship and how we interact with each other, and that's why I love, our Pierce County vision is a place people are proud to call home. And then it's us with all of our different commissions and your roles and staff to really think about, what does that look like? And at the end of the day, it's about bringing us, opportunities to interact with each other and have that openness. And I think our core values really talk about it, is that interconnectedness. And so as we are going out to these listening sessions and going out to where these communities are, we're really going in as our core values of interconnectedness, of equity, of open-mindedness, that we want to learn and hear from each other and really create actionable changes that are co-created. And I think that takes time. So my request, I'm off the cuff, is, this is 4 years, but I think it's more than that. I think it's a lifetime. It's something that we want to be intentional, to have stewards to say, hey, we want to always be welcoming and thinking about when we talk about harm and trauma, that healing part that also needs to happen. And so as we engage with each other, providing tools and preparedness so that when we go out, we have all of those things in our minds as we, share our candy and our, who we are as people. And, it's a big, thing that you're talking about, because if we had resolved that, we wouldn't have this. We would be interacting with each other. For me, I've been, born and raised here in Tacoma, Washington. Growing up, my dad told me about, the excuse me, but the Tacoma method, right? And so even that, growing up thinking that, you know, there are descendants who were the sheriff and the mayor who, excuse me, thank you. Geez, this is always hard to talk about. It is always something that's there, and we have not reconciled those relationships. And until we really talk about reconciling these relationships, and as we bring in our new Ukrainian neighbors, and really encouraging learning and openness, learning about what's happening to their countries and why they're coming here, Vietnam. I mean, that is, I remember in the 8th grade, our teacher was like, I'm not going to talk about this war. So we didn't even get to learn about it. I had to learn about it through my friends and the different perspectives that we all have and being able to share that. And I think that's why we really wanted to focus on that foundation so that we are tooled up of saying, okay, we're going to have different perspectives, but we have one goal. We have a goal of wanting this place to be a place where we can all be proud of and we all can live together and thrive together. And so I think in a long answer to your question is that it's going to take time and it's going to take different opportunities and resources to go out to the community. And so there's another little shameless plug of resources, food, and really being able to be out there to engage in a different way than a transactional way. Mm-hmm. We really need to think about a really transforming and transformative way so that people see us as we're here, we want to listen, we want to work together and really do this well together as to, and do it well deeply. And I think that we've been working on that. You know, I've been in this community for multiple decades now, and we've been trying, and we can still continue to do that because all of us are here with different perspectives and different experiences, different traumas, different harm. And this global pandemic, essentially, whether you believe it or not, we are all harmed by it. And so we need to process those emotions in healthy ways so that we can work together and create the policies and the program that will support each other in our growth together. So
thank you very much. I feel your sincereness, and that's part of the leadership that you're taking on. I really sincerely thank you for that. And, you know, the immigrants that came here, there's all kinds of different countries they could have went to. They came here for a reason, and you're showing up their hope of a better life here, and you're showing them the path and to success. And I really appreciate what you're doing. So we're rooting for you. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for those questions. Committee Member Krueger.
Thank you, Chair. Excuse me. Thank you for your service. It's a lot of time. Mondays are kind of already taken. I've had to resort to watching the YouTubes, but if you're having food there, and I'm sure you're great cooks, I might just try to rearrange my schedule to get there. But I have a question in that I understand the state has an immigrant and refugee agency. Do you work with them as well? Do you?
Not as of yet, but we have already, actually at the APCC event, we've already made an effort to outreach to other organizations and groups, such as the Tacoma Commission for Refugee and Immigrant and Refugee Affairs, actually, it's flipped. And we met with one of their community members, and we are trying to expand our reach, not only because it's important to involve everyone possible, but if there's already work being done, there's no reason to not build upon that and collectivize our efforts to better serve each of our communities. So we have not yet made any outreach to the state level. We have tried locally, and we're going to continue to do that, but it's definitely on our radar, and yeah, we hope to be able to collaborate with various commissions on different levels in the state.
Okay. And I'm sorry.
Just to add, we know there was always an urgency of doing the task, and then the urgency and the need to have a foundation. And so we opted to really work on this foundation so that we have direction and a North Star, so that when we are engaging with other entities, we're able to say, this is who we are as a group. And I think in a way, sometimes we want to resolve the issues so urgently that we forget that foundational piece. And then when we're not able to have our core values solidified and our norms solidified, and we go into spaces, and then there may be lacks of clarity. And so we wanted, as a commission, to be able to have that clarity so that as we reach out to the different entities and even in our work plan, so that we have that we show up in a good way and in a way that we're solid, and that we have that team work and in our commissioners. So yes, we are definitely working on that in our priority to work that we're engaging in.
Yes, and thank you, Chair. One more comment in that, it's to applaud you to welcome the folks that are coming here, because I can't imagine going a place and you're like dropped off, the feeling of that. And in my readings, I've read where, anyone can be American, but no one can be Vietnamese or Chinese. I can't. And so having that here, it sounds to me as if your goal is assimilation, but I didn't hear that word. But that is where everyone can have the understandings and have that community that you're looking for. Is that perhaps a path that you are on in working towards assimilation?
In a way, just because of the connotation that assimilation has, I feel like we actually have talked about that, especially in the creation of our mission statement, in having an inclusive word while we were creating it. And assimilation almost feels as if it's taking one for the other, so kind of stripping yourself of a piece of yourself to be American. So we're still tossing around the best way of showing that, of being able to have that same sense of belonging without having a piece of yourself left behind. So we're definitely trying to work on that, but we still haven't found the correct wording for that. But yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, one of the things is that we want to be our authentic self. And in order to be your authentic self, you have to bring your all. And then when we are able to create that space and people are able to be their authentic self, they can be, whatever it is that they believe, whether they have their politics are, across the board. It's okay, because we want to be able to have those diverse perspectives so that we can create better, policies, better programming, better, community, a stronger and healthier community. Because until we can just throw the people who don't think like us off into the moon, we're all sharing this rock and we're all interconnected. And so we really wanted to keep that in mind and in our messaging and in our culture and how we open our space. Because we don't want our meetings to just be for people who are, immigrants and refugees. We want the broader community, broader Pierce County to come and join us as well. Because those perspectives are also important in how we're able to come and share, our priority 3 of our work that we're to present to you all in 2024. So,
Okay. And Chair, if I just might add in that, I would never want to give the impression that anyone would ask you to give up a culture, because how else can we enjoy, the fruits of what you've been through? So using the term assimilation has nothing to do with giving up any identity at all. It's just kind of like, rooting for the home team, where I had a friend who moved to another school, and so she was rooting for that school, and so we play basketball against each other, and I'm like, wait a minute, you're supposed to, that's the kind of thought process I go through. So anyway, thank you, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Krueger.
Thank you for those questions. And I'm not seeing anyone else with other questions. The lights aren't on. But I think my one request is we recently adopted an equity note meaning that we're going to be looking at our policies and asking staff to really think about how this impacts our community. I think it would be fantastic several months into doing this to take a sampling of those equity notes as a commission and go, did they keep the interests of refugee and immigrant communities when they were doing this? Is there something you're seeing that maybe we don't have a question that reflects that, or the way the responses are coming in are not acknowledging immigrants, especially recent immigrants, or just anything, kind of looking and just do a sampling, and we can help you do that. And you're not there yet, but I think sometime in the next 2 years, making sure that we check in with your commission about that work, since it's new for us, new for the whole county. I think it would be good for us to grow and work on that. And I'm pretty sure our finance team would appreciate just getting some reflections from the people that this is impacting. And that's the whole point of our equity note. So
Definitely.
hoping that's on your radar and you're aware that we did that, but I'm pretty excited about that work. So I am not seeing any other lights, so I just, again, want to thank you so much. I do want to see if Ms. Love had anything that she wanted to share, since you support this dynamic team. You don't have to. You're not on the agenda, but I just wanted to make sure since you were here.
I just wanted to thank our amazing chair and vice.
You have to come to the,
Oh.
okay.
Oh, you have to come over here.
Otherwise,
You
it's like,
have to.
you're this mystery voice, and I get this like, we can't hear you.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Love. My pronouns are she, her, and I just wanted to say thank you to our amazing chair and vice chair. I'm very tall. And I think it was a very good summative overview, and our team is just really strong and collaborative, and they do make great food. So you're more than welcome to come.
Okay.
Next Monday, is that meet? No, two, yeah.
The third.
Yes.
And I just have to say, Annika, Becky, and Stephanie are amazing. And, you know, we couldn't do what we do without them. And so, yeah, they're definitely stars, and we're very fortunate to have them as our team.
If I may, sorry, I just had this still on the top of my head too. Councilmember Herrera's earlier question, and it's something that I brought up at our last commission meeting, is that Pierce County is beautiful and it has a diverse and rich culture. But the difficulty within it is that we live in silos, especially for a refugee and immigrant community, which is what you were alluding to. We work well when we're within our own spaces, but we really don't branch out into those other areas, even though we have similar issues, struggles, beliefs, thoughts, lives. And I think that's something that this commission is going to try and do, is build bridges within those, or rather breaking down those silos, and just bringing everyone together, because as Alice mentioned as well, we're all interconnected. We all, throughout history, have faced the same struggles. It's always someone who's getting pinned as the new immigrant, right? From the base of this country is on the backs of immigrants. So I think we need to just realize that these barriers have been standing for far too long. So I just wanted to add that at the end.
Thank you for those comments, and thank you for your work. And I completely agree with your sentiments on the staff that's supporting you. We do have some amazing staff in the Human Services Department that are helping our boards and commissions. So thank you very much for your time this afternoon. You're welcome to stay to hear about what happened and what is continuing to happen with our Ukrainian new neighbors from Ukraine. So I think I'm going to kick it over to Ms. Merrick, but appreciate your time today.
Thank you, council members.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Hitchin. Joining us next is Trish Crocker from the Human Services Department and Catherine Rudolph from the Executive's Office to provide an update on the work the county is doing to support Ukrainian refugees.
Okay.
Thank you for inviting me. For the record, Trish Crocker, I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the grant coordinator for Pierce County Human Services. Next slide. So this is just a little bit of information about the extent, the magnitude of how many Ukrainian arrivals we have. I'm going to use the term arrival because they're not officially asylees, they're parolees, and I prefer arrivals. But we're Washington State is the fourth largest receiving state in the nation. Tacoma, Seattle, Bellevue is the third largest metropolitan area. And the numbers that you have there are actually already outdated. I got revised numbers through February on Friday. And Uniting for Ukraine, which is the major organizing entity of the federal government for Ukrainian refugees, is now saying that we have nearly 19,000 Ukrainian individuals coming through the state of Washington, and the Puget Sound area has received more than 12,500. DSHS is reporting that we have 2,247 in Pierce County, but we are certain that that is a significant undercount. Catherine Rudolph recently met with the consul to, the Ukrainian consul to Seattle, and he said that he estimates it's more like 6,000 in Pierce County. Next slide, please. These are some pictures from an event we had in December. And the services that we're providing started in May when we applied for funding from Commerce, Washington State Commerce, to provide basic services to help Ukrainian families and individuals to stabilize here in Pierce County. We received $650,000, which has been used to provide food, housing assistance, and wraparound services, employment, enrollment in school, and other basic needs. And these are our partners. The last one, Tacoma Community House, the council put in $50,000 in miscellaneous current expense. That contract is being processed and will be fully executed, I expect, by the end of this month. And they'll be increasing English language classes as part of that. Next slide, please. So these are numbers of what we've reported to Commerce on what our contractors, Emergency Food Network, Track Associates, and Lutheran Community Services Northwest have been providing with those Commerce funds, as well as what Pierce County Human Services has been doing directly. Next slide. What we have been doing, Pierce County specifically, has been supporting through resource events mostly. The first one was back in late September. We became aware of there was some unmet basic needs. So I went to Tacoma Pierce County Health Department event that was to translate vaccination records for school-aged children. And they had been expecting 50 to 60 people coming. There were over 300 people there. Many of them were children without any coats. So that along with some pleas from community members brought us to the countywide clothing drive that we had of gently and new and gently used clothing. Thank you to the council and the council staff who helped to support that. We were able to gather over 50 boxes, moving box-sized clothing that we distributed at the December 17th event. And that event had over 500 people attending. There was also immunization records that were translated there. We're getting information from Metro Parks, who's provided a special pass for Ukrainian families to be able to enjoy what we have here, and other health records. The one thing that I wasn't able to put on here was we had our most recent event this last Saturday. We had our largest event ever. So we had 528 individuals who were there or had family members there. We distributed over 3 pallets of food boxes from Emergency Food Network. There were children actually receiving vaccinations there so that they can enroll in school. And there was also housing and employment service providers there to try and receive referrals and give information. Next slide. So the ongoing needs are, there's a significant need for employment and assistance. Part of that has to do with translations of credentials from the Ukraine, as well as employment authorization. Parolees have 90 days that they can work without having that official employment authorization record, but then they have to get that processed in time to be able to continue with any jobs. Many of them have language difficulties, and that's becoming a barrier. So we're trying to work very closely to have our partners work together so that they can help so that these people can work and then pay for their housing. We're helping to provide initial move-in costs and rent costs with the funding, but those continue. We are not providing health care with our funds, but we're trying to coordinate with partners to try and make sure that everybody is collaborating with each other. Again, language can be a barrier if the providers aren't Ukrainian speakers or they use, and getting medical interpreters can sometimes be a little bit of a difficulty. They are often using Google Translate when they need to. And then one of our most popular things that we were able to do, we were able to purchase mattresses with these. We continue to get asked, when can we get more mattresses? When can we get more mattresses for the people who are moving in and they have nothing in the apartments that they're moving into when we are able to. One of the things that we're hopeful about is that the current Senate and House bills for the operating budget for the next biennium does currently include $5 million statewide for counties to be able to apply to continue this program. So we are hopeful, and if that continues in the budget, we will be, as soon as that's available, be applying for those funds. The only other thing that I did not put on here is that we are also working on providing a welcome guide for Ukrainian arrivals, where we'll provide information on things like the fact that you need auto insurance. If you drive, you need a driver's license, but you also are required to have auto insurance, how you access a doctor, because it's not exactly the same as they do there, how you get a dental appointment, where you can go for these things. So we're working with the executive's office to provide that, and I've been told that the Commission on Refugee and Immigrant Assistance will help us with that also. And then we are also going to work with Tacoma Pierce County Human Health Department to try and get it, because they have kind of broken the barrier of the government distrust. They have an amazing coordinator there who the community has come to trust, and she and I are going to work on trying to collect the professional credentials of those who've come here, so that if they're an engineer over there, how can we get it so that their engineer degree is recognized and they can actually be providing that level of strength to our community. So thank you. Last slide. Just some more pictures from the event. What questions may you have?
Thank you, Ms. Crocker, and thank you to the team. And then I do want to see if Ms.
I have things I want to say. I can say them now, or I can wait till after you ask Trish questions, whatever you'd like to do.
Do we have any questions from any of my colleagues? Oh, they all lit up. Okay, so we'll go to Committee Member Herrera first.
Thank you, Chair. Real quick, so do we know, like, the percentage of like children? I can only imagine it's probably a high amount because it's probably the first thing you want to get out of the country. It's war-torn.
I don't know that number off the top of my head, but the average family size has been around 4, and I will get specific information for you from the registration forms that I have at least.
So, and the follow-up question with that is also, is there any concentrate of where these people are landing and what school districts they are? Because I can imagine that school's going to have to be a factor coming into this, and if there's a whole. Okay, all right. Okay, that's all I had, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, and it sounds like we're on hold for that question, so we'll circle back around. How about Committee Member Krueger?
Thank you, Chair. My heart is heavy because I can't imagine, when you go and you've got, hundreds of people that need help. My niece used to work with Afghan refugees in Europe, and it's got to take a toll. I'm just wondering, can you describe like a day in your life in how do you possibly find places for these folks to spend the night or spend a week? How do you navigate them through the system or through the town or through the services?
So I am not working directly with the families on their housing or their employment. I can certainly reach out to my contractors, to our partners, Lutheran Community Services and TRAC, and see if I can get some information, if they can get into contact with you. I have been in contact with them only at the events, and I will say that part of the events was taking 4 different groups of families to Walmart to purchase the new clothing that we had the money for coats and pants and things like that. And it was very hard, but it filled my heart to be able to see that these children were able to get like little unicorn slippers. It's something that stood out to me. And just the children that were coming through and seeing, and I've gotten to know a lot of the longer-term community members. Longer-term, they've been here about a year, and who volunteer because they want to give back. And I can remember at one of the events, the gentleman Vasily, his city had just been bombed that morning. He'd been here many months, but and so he was trying to cheer everyone up as part. That's just what they do, and I speak very little Ukrainian, so most of the way that I work with them is through my partners who are Ukrainian, that's their first language, and I just smile a lot generally, but it's just it is heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time. Yes,
Just have to kind of get up and get her done. So, okay, thank you, Chair. Like I say, it sounds like I need to schedule a day. Kind of working and seeing what they're doing. So
I would be happy.
thank
to
you
do
for your
that, yes.
information. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Committee Member Mello.
Thank you, Chair Hitchin. Thank you to the department, yourself, and the executives, staff who've put a focus on this and helped in many, many different ways with contractors and partners and everything you've reported this morning. I have 2 questions. One thing you highlighted was around some of the federal regulations about a arrival having restrictions on their work. If there's something that you or our partners are identifying that we can help advocate for with our federal delegation or federal agency, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd be happy to lean on our relationships with our federal delegation to make the case and make the request to try to address that issue. The other thing I just wanted to ask, every person helped with a significant language barrier, a trust barrier, trauma. Every single person helped is a success.
Yes.
In hearing the total number of Ukrainian arrivals we likely have in our community, and when I compare that to the number of Ukrainians helped on the slide, I can't help but notice a difference in numbers.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if you can speak to that.
Yes, we realize that we are not reaching everyone. There are a couple of different communities within the Ukrainian community, and Catherine can speak to this a little bit more than I can, but we're trying to reach out to those. Some of them, it's by their faith center. There are, Pierce County has, I think, the largest percentage of Ukrainian or Slavic faith centers in the state. I could be wrong about that, but there are multiple, and they work together. But at the same time, they tend to have their own community. We're trying to work to see how we can help them partner together so that we can reach them. Part of it is also that at this event on Saturday, there were some people who were there for assistance who I had seen before, but the vast majority of the people who were there I had never seen before, and so they hadn't been at any of the previous events. So we're going to continue to see new arrivals. I don't think that it's going to be slowing. It's slowed down very slightly, but that's only because I've been informed that the processing for them to be able to come through their sponsorship is taking a teeny bit more time than it was in the first few months. So I think that this will be an ongoing thing, and we will be working to try and make sure that whoever is needing help, we're helping.
Thank you.
Thank you for those questions, Ms. Rudolph. Would you like to answer a couple questions and fill in the blanks?
Yeah, Catherine Rudolph, Pierce County Executive's Office. And for Trish and I, this has turned into a big heart issue. I've taken on 3 Ukrainian families myself, and their desire for self-sufficiency and independence is admirable. The biggest challenge that we're having, ongoing challenge, is understaffed federal agencies and a myriad of federal rules that don't necessarily integrate well. You ask about federal delegation help. Congresswoman Strickland has had her elbows out quite nicely and has taken on particularly the employment issue. And the reason that arrivals, and I agree with Trish, I prefer the word arrivals to parolees, is they are ready to work, they're prepared to work, they often have skills that we need, and the barrier to their work was, in fact, their paperwork wasn't getting completed and back to them. The estimate for many of them was 90-day turn, and some of them were at 8 months. The history lesson is that we have Ukrainian and Slavic families who came here at the time of the fall of the Soviet Union, at the time that Boris Yeltsin's administration fell apart. In 2014, when there was a Russian incursion into Ukraine and Russia seized the Crimea, a lot of people who had lived there came to Washington State to live. So we have a successful and very established community with faith centers which provide an important basis, with grocery stores that stock food that people are familiar with people who are welcoming their new neighbors. And people do this historically. I mean, this is not new. We have immigration patterns based in part on, my cousin lives there, so I'm going. So the question came up earlier, are there particular school districts that are more impacted? A lot of the Slavic community lives in University Place. It's a large chunk of it. That's not exclusive, but I would tell you that if you looked at the footprint of where Ukrainian families live, The west end of Tacoma down into Lakewood is one of the significant areas. And when I met with the Consul General after the executive State of the County speech, I said to him, I believe we have a lot, and we've previously had conversations about this, that we have more than 5,000 people who have arrived here. He said, you have more like 6,000 people who have arrived here. And with every major conflict in eastern Ukraine, we're likely to get more people, and we have no particular control over this. And we can view this as a problem, or we can view it as an advantage, because what we have arriving in the United States from Ukraine are people who already have their fellow countrymen, many of whom have become American citizens, and many of whom are ready, willing, and able to help. Trish mentioned the faith groups that are helping people. There's a Slavic church in South Tacoma that has been helping 1,500 people. And they are doing it independently of any of our assistance. The pastor made a deal with Amazon Fresh and has been getting a lot of fresh food, and they've been buying some stuff, and they've set up a 501c3. They've set up a nonprofit to help take in funds from the community. So they are assertively and forward. And the other thing is, we know that it's really about 1,500 people because they've set up a system where each family has an ID number in their computer, and it's how many people, what are the general ages of the people, are they any special needs? It's a very sophisticated response, and that's been overall how it has occurred. I went up last June to speak to a meeting of 8 Slavic churches from Federal Way down to Olympia, and it was an impressive event. They were planning how they were going to help people arrive. I was explaining the services we have in Pierce County and what we were attempting to do. So we have been attempting to help identify credentials, find work for people. And there's an interesting and solid match between available jobs in Pierce County and the people who are arriving. A lot of them have medical credentials. A lot of them have manufacturing credentials. And as you all know, we have about 87 aerospace companies, little ones and big ones, that operate in Pierce County. And we have a lot of people who come in with ISO 9000 knowledge and credentials. We have to help overcome that language barrier. And we have a lot of companies that have already stepped forward and said, we'd like to hire people, but that lagging credential for work or the expiration of the 90-day permission. And by the way, Congresswoman Strickland's efforts were part of getting that 90-day right to work. But some people still haven't received their paperwork. So this is something that I think is a great opportunity for Pierce County and how Pierce County does things. We are part of an American braid that new groups come in and we take people in. And we have effectively taken a lot of people in. One of your commissioners mentioned that the groups are siloed, and that's true. And I think one of the tasks that the commission has and one of the tasks that we have as Pierce County government is to help people really feel like they are integrated into our processes and our community and our local culture. But the Ukrainians who have come here are lucky because the community is welcoming them. And many of them thought when they first arrived that they got to go home soon. Well, that's not going to be true. A great deal of eastern Ukraine is simply gone. It's been bombed out. There's no infrastructure. And we have the value of these people who have come here, who will integrate into our community, who will be part of our braid going forward. And we have an accommodation challenge, and I think we are up to that accommodation challenge. So questions, if any?
Thank you for answering the question about the school district. I knew that was one that came up, and appreciate your wealth of knowledge and advocacy from essentially day one. So, Committee Member Cooper.
Thank you, Chair. I figured my other question would have been directed to you, which was about the paperwork and the rules. I wrote a letter of recommendation on a Ukrainian who is a pilot and in need, and there was, a snafu where accommodations weren't ready for when he got here. Therefore, there was a cutoff date. Kind of reminded me of Lambert's and the dates, but it was they were like going to deport him, and I'm like, how can we overcome that kind of, I don't know what the word is, awkwardness, or where the rule becomes more important than the human?
Yes, the federal immigration system has been a mess for a long time, and we're seeing the impacts. Part of the good news is that Congress may take specific action to reform and improve some of the immigration statutes, many of which conflict. And the Biden administration did everybody a favor by saying up front that the Ukrainians were asylum seekers. They are refugees from a global conflict, from a major war. So that actually advantages the refugees from Ukraine in our system, but the regulators don't always know that. And so that's what I'm hearing from you. The other thing that Trish raised, which is important, is the credentialing question. One of the people I met when I went up to the event with the multiple churches in Federal Way was a woman who had a pharmacy degree, and she had studied at the Max Planck Institute in Germany, which is one of the finest medical facilities in the world. And so one of the tricks is going to be to match up people's credentials and verify them when the city from which they come may have been, destroyed. The paperwork may not easily be there. I met with Chancellor Sheila Edwards-Lang from University of Washington, Tacoma, and she said it was possible that their admissions people could help identify and verify some credentials for people. I mean, obviously, there may be situations where the building where the credentials were housed is gone, and there's going to be a longer workaround. But I think that if we have a recognized local institution that is helping us verify credentials, it will help. Both of the major medical entities locally are actively seeking to integrate Ukrainian arrivals with medical training into their system. We're going to also, Councilmember Mello mentioned, is there an ask? Well, one of the asks is for the state of Washington to help us with licensure advancement for people who have professional credentials from the other side of the world. If we have someone who's a doctor or a dentist, then we want to be able to have them working as soon as they can master the local language that is used to describe the same process that they successfully did in the other country. And that's a generalized problem. It's not just a Ukrainian arrivals problem. But we need to figure out how we're going to recognize licenses and training from Ukraine and other nations. So that's a problem for the State Department of Licensing. It's a big deal. We have received a lot of good help from the state of Washington. The Department of Commerce received a large federal grant. As Trish mentioned, we were able to early on get a piece of that, a large piece of that, and we applied it to food in general. I mean, that was the main thing we applied it to. And we also received a lovely gift of $25,000 from the city of Puyallup, and that went into that mattress acquisition that was early on. We still have a lot of needs. We have a lot of needs, and we have the integration of these individuals into our schools. The Tacoma Pierce County Health Department has been translating people's medical records and vaccination records to the extent that people have them. And again, we're going to have a verification process that we need to do to help people going forward, that if they can get their information translated and then hand that to a physician locally whose primary language is English, then that's going to be helpful to them in doing their everyday lives. But this is not over. We're going to have at least a couple more years where we have a lot of of humanity that's arriving, that's in crisis, and mental health counseling backup and issues which are already stressed to the limit with the COVID outcomes that people have, we are going to have an interesting time. Seattle University is doing mental health counseling aimed directly at Ukrainians. I've been talking to them about training some folks down here. And the obvious thing to me, since these are mostly PTSD type effects, is that I'm trying to find people who are veterans, who are medical techs, people who have served as EMTs in the front lines, who already know something about dealing with PTSD, and see if I can get those folks trained by the Seattle University team. It won't be the same as a formal mental health counseling situation, but it will be a better training system than we have now. And I think we need to not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. So, thank you for the time.
Veterinarians, we need veterinarians if you can find, if they're in the groups.
Mm-hmm. And we know someone who knows something about veterans, so yeah, I'll be chasing him. Veterinarians.
Oh,
you said
Doctors. No, veterinarians, animal doctors.
We have those,
Good, we
yes.
need more.
And there are people coming in who literally are also in that field. Anything else?
For those questions, I guess my thanks to you and suggestion that if there's something that we can do, if there's a letter of support, and I know we currently have our behavioral health RFP out, so if you have a provider that's interested in helping that, we have funding dollars, we just need somebody to do the work.
We
So-
need someone who's got the proper credential
Yes,
to do the
so
work.
if
Understood.
you, yeah, so it's out there, it's available, the grant is open for another 2 weeks. So there's a little clock there, but just,
I deal with clocks all day.
okay, just
Okay.
wanted to flag
Happy
that
to.
in case somehow it slipped by the radar. When I heard behavioral health and mental health, I was like, hey, we have something open for that,
And
so.
if I might take a point of personal privilege, Alice Fong is a wizard cook. But in her real life, she is also the president of the Center for Ethical Leadership, and I've served on a couple of boards with her in the past. And what you saw this morning in her presentation was an organized and very centered approach to life and work. And so you are very fortunate to have her as your first chair. And I just want to mention how pleased I was. That was literally the last commission that I filled when I was still filling boards and commissions for the executive. And when Alice's name popped up, I was very pleased. And of course, she represents your district, so you're very fortunate. Thank you.
And I have the pleasure of serving on the Public Health Advisory Board with Alice as well. So she wears many hats like I do, so it's been good to get to know her in multiple avenues. So thank you very much, both of you, for being here this afternoon and the work that you're doing to support our new neighbors.
Yeah.
And we look forward to hearing more and getting updates, and don't hesitate to reach out to the Human Services team here, and committee, I should formally say, and if there's something that comes up that you'd like to share.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to update you on this, and happy to do it anytime. Just, you know the phone number. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Merrick, is there any more business before the committee?
No new business. I will mention the next Human Services Committee meeting is on April 4th with presenters to discuss barriers to housing. So we're still finalizing presenters, but so far we have Pierce County's Aging and Disability Resources confirmed to present on barriers that older adults and individuals with disabilities face to housing. And then we also have the YMCA from Greater Seattle to present on youth and young adults barriers. We're also looking for a presenter for the Veterans Program. Mr. Sheets is on paid family medical leave, but just to give an update on the PACT Act, and then to highlight the April 15th Veterans Resource Fair at the Tacoma Dome.
Okay, sounds like a packed agenda as usual, and I know that the following meeting is focusing on school districts, if I'm remembering correctly.
April 18th, yes.
So
A month.
maybe if there's something around, Ukrainian refugees, and we want to check in on them if that's one of their concerns or areas that they're needing some support. So with that, I believe we are adjourned. Have a wonderful afternoon, everybody. Thank you.